There's so much pessimism and doom and gloom right now in the media about the real estate market. And that attitude is getting into the thoughts of would-be homebuyers, and it's scaring them and confusing them as well. Is this a good time to buy a home, or should I step back and wait? But what if you had some trusted advisors in the real estate mortgage field to help you navigate this? See where we're at in the cycle and what opportunities may actually lie ahead for you. In today's lesson, I want to spotlight a recent episode of my radio show, Mortgage Matters, where we interviewed one of the top real estate agents in the state of Connecticut, Mr. Josh Brown, of the Keller Williams Iron Agent team. And we hone in on this episode and talk about unique opportunities in today's market for home buyers, the transition from a strong seller's market to a more normal market, and of course, predictions for housing values and interest rates over the next 12 months.
Talk about the current state of the housing markets, all right? I mean, we're now in the fourth quarter of the year.
So from a pricing standpoint, there is changes going on right now. There are. But just because the prices are lower than they were a year ago doesn't mean that we're in a buyer's market. So it was a really strong seller's market, and now it's just moving a little bit. It's shifting to where it's a little more equilibrium, right? So it's not a buyer's market, and it's not a strong seller's market, but it's shifting away from that, more towards the middle. We're not in the middle yet, but we're moving away from that crazy seller's market. Every house going over ask, every house with 20, 30 offers and all that.
Is that the effect that the interest rates are having right now?
So buyers right now are seeing a couple of things happen. Money is starting to move around in different ways. When I said it's the great reshuffling, right? People are creative. The consumer is creative. Businesses are going to give the consumer what they want, and the consumer is going to tell you what they want. If they want a different mortgage product, if they want a lower rate, if they want a temporary lower rate to help them endure the market so that they can maybe, there's a saying, you date the rate, you marry the house, right? And what that just means is the rate's temporary, it's not permanent. When you sell the house, the mortgage goes away. If you refinance the house, the mortgage goes away. And I'm not suggesting that you buy a house with the intention of refinancing in the short term, but there's a good opportunity that if you can get yourself into the house that you want right now, and that supports, let's say, your life goals, a large influx of cash, especially on the investor side when it comes to interest rates. So cash is starting to show up as a competitor. Mortgage products are starting to change. These are all things that just in the short term are changing the way people are approaching their bids and approaching a bidding.
What questions then should a seller be asking right now, especially if they're considering listing their home sometime soon?
That said, if I sit down with somebody, my first goal is to figure out, why are you doing this? Why is that important to you? So why are you selling your home? Is it just the money? What does that do for your family? Does that get you closer to your grandmother who you need to take care of? Why are you selling your house? And if there's not a compelling reason to sell your house, my advice may be don't sell your house right now.
Talk about the shift that's going on from a strong seller's market to a more normal market. For example, what are some of the differences?
So with that, we're seeing things shift there. We're seeing when a good house comes on the market. I have two criteria for a good house: desirable and priced right. If you find a desirable home and it's priced correctly, the house will sell, and it will sell very quickly. If someone overprices their home, so what you're going to see in this fourth quarter and what we're starting to see, we're seeing more price reductions than we've seen probably in 2 years.
So negotiations are that big difference, because if you're a buyer and there's 20 other buyers and everyone's coming in at or above list, there's not a negotiation, at least on the front end of the transaction, right? That's one thing. The second thing, and then this is probably the biggest thing I've seen as a shift and a change with the market, is seller credits, closing cost credits from the sellers.
What are some of the things that home buyers right now can do in their preparation phase, let's call it, in order to have a successful home buying experience?
So preparation is probably the key word. There's a saying, good fortune is the intersection of where preparedness meets opportunity. When someone shows up, when we post an open house for a house, right? It's been on the market for 3 or 4 days before we're posting the open house, right? Or before the open house. Sure. So people show up, they walk through our open house, they're like, oh, great, we love the house. They haven't been pre-approved yet. They don't have a real estate agent. They're not really even sure where their down payment's going to come from, how much a down payment.
But I would say the number one thing that a buyer can do right now to get ready, to be prepared, to be ready to capitalize on these great opportunities, number one is get pre-approved before you actually talk to an agent. The last thing I'll say on that is the Realtor recommendation.
What are your predictions right now for the housing market for 2023? Or is that not a fair question?
So predictions are supply and demand, as we said, drives the market. So supply and demand is how many buyers are looking to buy houses. You know, how many people are you competing with to buy a house, right?
Sure.
So if a house is on the market, multiple buyers show up and they're making offers, that's great. If they're not in a position where they can actually make an offer or win a bid, so the dialogue over the last several years, and the dialogue forever, has always been this.
The other thing I want to state, though, is, you know, everyone's afraid, as we talked about with inflation and interest rates, but what I think we're going to see next year, the big prediction is we're going to see more pressure on the prices, and then we're going to see more competition when the rates ultimately come down.
Maybe you can mention maybe some of the tools or resources that buyers and sellers can use to keep up to date in the housing market.
The two top tools you can make are to find a top real estate agent, and B, a top lender. Because if you're not working with a top agent or a top lender, everything's situational.
I agree. Get that done. Now, if you're someone who's not ready, who's on the sideline, I've plugged HomeBot before. That's the tool I recommend.
Right.
On top of what Josh said with your relationship. HomeBot, if you're looking for a free HomeBot report, which will give you information on the local market, on your home, I will give it to you for free. It's for all my clients and listeners. Shoot an email to mortgagemattersradioshow@gmail.com with your name, your property address, and your phone number, and we'll get you loaded up into HomeBot to get more info on your local housing market. It's my hope in bringing you this information today that you'll have now the confidence to move forward with that mortgage pre-approval, that home purchase, and building the wealth for you and your family. If you found value in our lesson, please go ahead, hit that subscribe button, smash that bell so you get notified on all of our future content. We are putting out tons of knowledge and information and education for all of our subscribers all over. And I do offer consultations, personalized, customized advice for you and others that you may know. So reach out to me if I can be of assistance by call, text, or private message. 860-413-3938. And as always, I hope this helps, and we'll see you next time.